Hi, this is Bill Watkins. Today I want to begin in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, beginning in verse 12, where Paul begins a great discussion of the resurrection of the dead. It will go really all the way to the end of this chapter. It's the longest discussion of the resurrection that you're going to find. And so I want you to notice as we kick it off in verse 12, Paul said, now if Christ is preached that he's been raised from the dead, and if you remember he was, that's the gospel, 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 1 through 4, that Christ died for our sins according to the scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he rose again the third day according to the scriptures. So if Christ is preached that he's been raised from the dead, how does some among you say that there is no resurrection from the dead? He said, clearly there is, or Jesus wouldn't have risen. But here it is. If there is no resurrection of the dead, then Christ is not risen. The first thing they need to understand is that if you believe, as many in that congregation apparently believe, that there was no resurrection from the dead, then it would have been impossible for Jesus to have risen from the dead. But if Jesus rose from the dead, then the gospel is true. If he didn't rise from the dead, and if there is no resurrection, then the gospel is not true. He says, think about the implications of what you're saying. And he spends the next few verses talking about what those implications are. There is a resurrection from the dead. Get that clear. Paul makes that clear at the opening salvo. Here's the gospel. There's a resurrection from the dead. Christ is raised. Therefore, there's a resurrection from the dead. And our hope lies for the next life in the fact that Jesus, on the third day, rose from the dead, just as he said he did, came out of the grave, triumphant over death, hell, sin, and the grave. And you and I will do the same. We will rise. Thanks for watching.